Elon Musk stepped out of the high-end store, his black umbrella shielding him from the downpour as he adjusted the bag in his hand. The busy city streets were alive with the usual buzz, people rushing to and fro, their footsteps drowned by the relentless rain. He had a meeting to attend, his mind already racing through the agenda. But then, something caught his eye. Sitting on the cold sidewalk, a small child huddled alone, drenched to the bone, their fragile frames shivering from the cold. Their eyes were wide, holding a quiet sadness that spoke of an unseen story, one of abandonment, of forgotten childhood. In their tiny hands, they clutched a broken toy, its faded colors barely visible against the backdrop of the wet concrete. The world around them seemed to be moving in a blur, everyone too absorbed in their own lives to notice the vulnerable child sitting in the rain. Elon paused, his heart sinking. There was something about the child's helplessness that made him stop in his tracks. He didn't normally make impulsive decisions, but the vulnerability in the child's eyes felt too raw to ignore. What happens next will change both of their lives forever. Elon crouched down slowly, his gaze softening as he looked at the child. The rain continued to pour, yet he felt an overwhelming sense of urgency to connect. With a warm yet gentle tone, he spoke, "Hey there, I'm Elon." The child's eyes flickered up, locking with his for the briefest moment before they quickly darted away, unsure and hesitant. Their small forms seemed to shrink even further against the wet sidewalk, a shield of silence forming between them. The child didn't speak at first, they only shivered, clutching their broken toy tighter, as if it was the only thing left that anchored them to any sense of comfort. Elon didn't push. He didn't offer help right away. Instead, he sat down next to the child, a few feet away but close enough for his presence to feel real. "I used to be a kid just like you," Elon said, trying to break the ice. His voice was calm, free from any sense of urgency, just a soft invitation to talk. For a moment, the child remained quiet, staring at their toy. But then, something shifted. It wasn't the toy or the rain that broke the silence. It was Elon's presence, his quiet understanding. The child took a deep breath, their voice barely a whisper. "My mom, she's sick. We don't have a home anymore." The words seemed to spill out slowly, as if saying them aloud made the reality of it all sink deeper. "I've been staying at a shelter. We're just trying to get by." Elon felt the weight of the words land heavily in the space between them. His heart ached for the child, but what caught him off guard was the flicker of something else in their eyes, a spark of hope. Despite the obvious hardship, the child spoke about their life with a quiet determination. They weren't giving up. They were still dreaming of something better. "I just want to help my mom," the child said, almost to themselves. "I want to make her smile again." Elon listened, his heart opening as he heard the quiet resilience in the child's voice. It was a stark reminder that no matter how hard life gets, there's always a flicker of hope waiting to be nurtured. And in that moment, something inside Elon stirred. Standing up slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. "How about I buy you something nice?" he asked, his voice gentle. "Something for you, just for today." The child looked up at him, unsure at first. "Why would you do that?" they asked softly, the hesitation clear in their eyes. Elon smiled, offering a simple gesture of kindness, a way to bring a little light into the darkness they had been enduring. "Sometimes," he said, "we all need something to remind us that good things still happen." With the promise of a gift lingering in the air, Elon guided the child through the quiet streets, the sound of raindrops dancing on the pavement behind them. The child walked beside him, their small hand clutching the toy like a lifeline, but there was a quiet hesitation in their steps. Elon knew the walls of distrust and fear that had built up over time weren't so easily torn down. As they approached the toy store, the bright colors and rows of cheerful toys seemed to be a stark contrast to the child's reality. It was as if the store was a world the child had never thought they could be a part of. "Go ahead," Elon said, his voice soft. "Pick something you like." The child hesitated at the door, looking inside with wide eyes. They stepped inside slowly, unsure of what to do, their gaze bouncing from one shelf to another. Elon didn't push. He simply stood back, letting the child explore at their own pace. The shelves were filled with toys, bright, shiny, and seemingly perfect. But the child's eyes fell on something simple, a small, well-loved stuffed bear sitting quietly on a lower shelf. It wasn't anything extravagant. In fact, it seemed almost out of place amidst the newer, flashier toys. But to the child, it was everything. They reached out, their fingers brushing the soft fabric of the bear, their touch gentle, almost reverent. There was a moment of quiet, and then the child turned to Elon, their face a mixture of uncertainty and hope. I don't know if I can. It's not much. They trailed off, unsure if it was too much to ask for something as simple as this bear. Elon kneeled down to the child's level, his gaze kind, understanding. Is this really what you want? He asked, his voice gentle. The child nodded shyly, their eyes filled with a mixture of embarrassment and longing. Elon smiled warmly, his heart softening at the quiet strength in the child's eyes. Without a word, he picked up the bear and placed it in the child's arms, but his actions didn't stop there. I think you deserve more than just a bear, Elon said softly, leading the child to another aisle. He picked up a small tablet, the kind that could offer a sense of escape and a world beyond the struggles they faced. A little distraction, something to brighten your days. As the items piled up, a tablet, a set of games, the child's eyes widened in disbelief. For a moment, it was as if time stood still. They didn't know how to react. The weight of the gift was not just in its material value, but in its symbolism. It was a kindness that felt too big, too overwhelming for someone who had been living without certainty for so long. Elon gently placed the items in the child's hands. The child's face lit up, a burst of joy and wonder breaking through the cloud of sadness that had hung over them. It wasn't just about the bear, the tablet, or the games. It was the feeling that someone saw them, truly saw them, and wanted to give them something more than just sympathy. For a brief moment, the child forgot the weight of the world they had been carrying. They were simply a child again, lost in the wonder of kindness. Elon watched, a quiet satisfaction filling him. This wasn't about grandeur or recognition. It was about showing the child that kindness still existed in a world that often seemed indifferent. And as the child smiled, holding their new gifts close, Elon knew this small act would have a lasting impact. With the stuffed bear gently cradled in the child's arms, Elon led them into a cozy cafe nearby. The warmth inside was a stark contrast to the cold, rainy streets they had just left behind. The soft hum of quiet conversations and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, offering a brief moment of peace amidst the chaos of their worlds. Elon led the child to a corner booth by the window, their small frame barely reaching the top of the table as they sat across from him. Elon ordered them both something simple, a sandwich and a warm drink. As they waited for the food to arrive, the child's gaze wandered to the window, where the rain drizzled down in steady streams, reflecting the dim streetlights outside. It was a moment of stillness, yet there was an unspoken connection forming between them, a quiet understanding that neither of them had expected. The child spoke first, their voice soft and tentative. I used to have a home, they said, their eyes distant as if the memories were both painful and distant. I remember when we had a little place. I miss it. Their voice quivered slightly, but they steadied themselves, unwilling to break down in front of this stranger who had just shown them kindness. I wish I could fix things for my mom. She's sick. I want her to be happy again. Elon listened carefully, nodding in understanding. There was a sadness in the child's words, but also a depth of love and care for their mother. It was clear that despite everything, they hadn't given up. The raw honesty of their vulnerability was something Elon could relate to, something he had seen in his own life but seldom spoke about. The words came from him before he could stop them. You know, when I was younger, I also went through some tough times. I didn't always have everything figured out. I felt lost at times, unsure of where I was headed. The child's eyes flickered up at him, surprised. Elon continued, his voice quiet but steady. But I found something along the way. Small acts of kindness from strangers, moments where people saw me when I felt invisible. Those things helped me more than I can say. The child listened intently, their expressions softening, almost as if they were trying to understand that someone like Elon Musk, someone who had everything, had also experienced hardship. You really went through that? They asked, their voice barely above a whisper, filled with a mix of disbelief and curiosity. Elon smiled gently, the warmth of the cafe around them now feeling more intimate than before. Yes, we all go through hard times. What matters is how we choose to move forward. And you've already shown so much strength just by being here, by wanting to help your mom. That's something to be proud of. The child's face brightened slightly, a spark of hope igniting in their eyes. For the first time in a long while, they allowed themselves to believe that things could get better. The conversation shifted after a while, filled with laughter and dreams about the future, about possibilities that once seemed distant. When the meal was finished and the rain began to let up outside, Elon stood up, offering a hand to the child. How about we take a walk to the shelter? I'll walk with you. It might be the first step towards something better. The child, no longer a small figure in the corner of the world, stood taller. "Yes, I'd like that," they said, their voice steady with newfound confidence. And together they walked toward the shelter, their journey just beginning, toward a future that for the first time seemed full of possibility. The rain had finally slowed to a light drizzle. As Elon and the child walked side by side, the sound of their footsteps soft against the wet pavement. The air felt different now, warmer and filled with the quiet hum of possibility. Elon glanced at the child, who was holding their new toy close, as if it were a symbol of something more than just a gift. As they walked, Elon asked, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" The child's eyes, still wide with the wonder of their recent experience, seemed to momentarily drift to a world beyond their immediate struggles. I want to help people," they said softly, their voice trembling with the weight of the dream they were carrying. "I want to make a difference. I don't want anyone else to feel like I did, alone, forgotten. I want to help." Elon stopped walking for a moment, his expression thoughtful. He looked directly at the child, his heart full of empathy. "You will," he said, his voice steady and warm. "You have the heart for it, and no matter what happens, you will always have the power to make a difference, to change the world around you. Never forget that." The words seemed to hang in the air for a moment, their significance slowly sinking in. The child's face softened, and for the first time, their eyes were not filled with fear or uncertainty. Instead, there was something else, a glimmer of hope, a spark of belief. They had never been told they could be more than their circumstances, never told that they could be a force for good in the world. Overcome with emotion, the child nodded, but the words they wanted to say felt caught in their throat. How could they express the gratitude that was swelling within them? All they could do was look up at Elon, their eyes glistening with a mixture of disbelief and thanks. Elon, sensing the child's struggle, gently placed a hand on their shoulder, offering a reassuring smile. "You're not alone," he said softly. "You don't have to do everything on your own. There's always someone who will stand by you, and you have the strength to carry on." They continued walking, arriving at the shelter, where the child's journey of transformation was just beginning. Elon spoke briefly with the shelter staff, sharing the child's story and promising to check in on them in the coming weeks. It wasn't much, but it was something, a small gesture that symbolized the start of a new chapter in their life. As the child walked away from the shelter that evening, they carried more than just a toy or a tablet. They carried a renewed sense of purpose, a belief that their dreams were worth pursuing, and the understanding that even in the darkest moments, life could shift towards something brighter. For the first time in a long time, they truly believed that things could get better. Weeks had passed since that rainy day, when Elon had met the child on the cold sidewalk, and as he stepped into the shelter once more, he was struck by how much things had changed. The same shelter that had once felt heavy with despair now hummed with energy. There, in the midst of other children, stood the child, vibrant and full of life, their small frame no longer cowering in the corner. They were laughing, playing games with others, their face lighting up in a way that Elon had never seen before. The transformation was almost unreal, and it took Elon a moment to gather his thoughts. The child looked up and saw him, their eyes instantly filling with recognition. Their face broke into a wide smile, the same smile that had been absent the last time Elon had seen them. They ran over, their arms outstretched, and hugged him tightly. "Thank you," the child said, their voice trembling with emotion. "You gave me hope when I had none. You showed me that I wasn't alone." Elon paused for a moment, his heart swelling. He had been expecting to find the child doing better, but what he saw now exceeded his expectations. This wasn't just the child going through the motions. They were thriving, laughing, engaging with others, helping those around them. It was as if the simple act of kindness had given them the strength to unlock a part of themselves they didn't know existed. "You're the one who did this," Elon said, his voice quiet but firm. "It wasn't me. It was your strength, your resilience. You found it inside yourself, and that's what made the difference." The child shook their head, their eyes shining with gratitude. "No, you made me believe. You gave me something I never thought I could have, a future." In that moment, Elon realized something profound. Sometimes the smallest gestures could change a life in ways no one could ever fully comprehend. A kind word, a simple gift, a willingness to listen. It wasn't just about the material things. It was about giving someone the space to believe that they could be more than their circumstances. Elon's act of kindness had sparked something much bigger than a momentary joy. It had sparked a ripple effect that was changing this child's life, and in turn, the lives of others around them. As they spoke, Elon made a promise. I want to help you. I'll support your education, give you the tools you need to succeed. The future you dream of is within your reach. Don't ever doubt that. The child's eyes widened in disbelief. You mean it? Elon smiled, his voice soft, yet certain. I do. You've got the strength. Now it's just about putting that belief into action, and I'll be here to help you every step of the way. With that, the child's eyes filled with a new kind of determination, a belief that things could be different, that they could reach for something bigger. As Elon watched the child walk back to their friends, he felt a deep sense of fulfillment. This simple act of kindness had done more than help one child. It had ignited a spark that would carry them forward, one step at a time, toward a brighter future. A few weeks later, Elon stood in the bright, modest living room of the shelter, where the warmth of hope had begun to fill the spaces that once felt empty. The child's mother, fragile but slowly recovering from illness, had asked to speak with him. When she entered the room, her eyes were filled with gratitude, but there was something else there too, a deep sense of relief. Elon, I don't know how to thank you, she said, her voice thick with emotion. She wiped a tear from her eye, unable to hold back the surge of feelings she had bottled up for so long. You've given us more than just help. You've given us a chance at life, a second chance. Elon's heart swelled with a warmth that only kindness could inspire. He wasn't seeking recognition, but hearing the profound impact of his actions on this family made the entire experience worth it. It was clear now. His simple act of seeing the child, listening, and providing support had transformed their lives in ways he had never imagined. As the mother spoke of their struggles, she continued, We didn't know where to turn, but you gave us hope when we thought all was lost. You showed us that there's still good in the world. You didn't just change one life, you changed ours forever. The emotional weight of her words hung in the air, and Elon found himself reflecting on how small moments of kindness could create waves of change. He had only meant to make a difference in one person's life, but in doing so, he had ignited something much bigger. News of his gesture had spread beyond the shelter, reaching local media and sparking conversations about generosity and empathy. People from all walks of life reached out to offer help, donations flooded in, and local organizations began volunteering their time and resources. Elon smiled, a quiet, humbled smile. I'm just glad I could be there when you needed it. But as the mother looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude, she responded, You gave my child more than just a gift. You gave them a future. Those words hit him harder than he expected. He'd never thought of it that way. The impact wasn't just in the gift or the toys or the short-term relief. It was in the opportunity, the belief in themselves, and the chance to start fresh. The ripple effect had already begun, and it wasn't just changing their lives. It was inspiring others to take action, to show kindness, to recognize the humanity in one another. As Elon left the shelter that day, the air felt different. It wasn't the weight of grand gestures that mattered. It was the quiet, human connections, the ones that sometimes go unnoticed, that truly had the power to change the world. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs a reminder that kindness can change lives. Let's spread the message of compassion, one small act at a time. Don't wait for the world to change. Be the change you want to see. Join the ripple effect and make a difference today.